So, quick video on using Flight Coach Plotter and in particular using Flight Coach Score. So now over to Tom.
Okay, so this is a plotter. It's kind of a 3D F3A box. The pilot sits there. So we can load a flight log into here. So a bin file is a binary file that the flight controller outputs. And then you can also define where the box is in the world. So you can put the pilot position and a point on the way to center here. We've got a load of flying fields defined around the world as well. Or you can do it manually. And then it positions the flight in the box for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can spin it around. And so when I'm at the flying field, I'll kind of load it in and have a general look like this. The other thing you've got down here, there's this splitter at the bottom, which you can use to make the ribbon a bit longer. So here you've got the takeoff, and then I start the first maneuver here. This is the P25, so it's the current F3A sequence.
So this is already splitting the flight per maneuver for you.
Yeah, so you can split it per maneuver, and then it just allows you to look at a single maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can look at, so if we just split a couple of maneuvers here, just the first three, just as an example. You see I'm just extending it a bit. So what you've got is a ribbon, you've got a little plane, a ribbon diagram, so you can see the roll angle and you can see the track. And I can play it back. You see, I think I can adjust the speed slightly.
That's really cool.
So it's the kind of feedback.
Would this show you the attitude of the plane? Meaning, like, let's say you have a lot of crosswind. Would you see the airplane pointing a little bit to the side via the IMU, or this is just purely just a point in
so you can see the
space?
model here. The little 3D model is showing the attitude. So it's that's if there's wind, it will. I guess maybe the spin or something like that's a better option. But yeah, if there's wind, it will be offset according to
Nice.
account for the wind.
Wow, so
We've also got this kind of little 3D view on the left here that gives you a bit more. There wasn't much wind for this flight, so it's not too obvious. I think if we carry on a little bit, we'll get to the spin. Here we are. You can see it's...
Oh wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, so you get a bit more...
Yeah, no, this is a whole different level. Like you go from basically just when you're on your own, you're just eyeballing everything and trying to remember what you did right and wrong, to now be able to go as detailed as you want. Like you can see there how there's a tiny bit of maybe extra rotation on the roll, and then you kind of recover. There's like a few degrees. You can see absolutely everything.
Exactly, yes. And sometimes it can be too much. You just look at it and you think your head explodes with all the things that you should fix.
Yeah.
And
no, but this is amazing. Like, especially when you are, I think in my experience that the typical thing that happens is that when you are at the very beginner levels of a competition, whether it's IMAC or F3A, judging is not that big of a deal. Like it's very obvious that this flight was better than this other flight. When you start getting to the really high level, world championships, European championships, the top 10, 20 pilots are so good that you're splitting hairs, right? And now things like some like conscious or unconscious bias based on the name of the pilot, if it's somebody that that won the championship last year versus a new pilot, or little mistakes can start making a big difference, right, on the scoring. And this potentially could remove a lot of that.
Absolutely. I mean, judging is so hard. There's so much to see all the time. So, you've got to keep your mind on so many different criteria and have a very, very good eye. And it's also very boring, which...
and it's hard. Like it's hard. So you have a full day of judging, flight after flight after flight.
One of the problems with judging is that it's so boring, and so it's very hard to maintain your attention for 40 flights in a row.
Can we see the scoring side of things?
Yes. So this is. I've just loaded it. And I'm just checking it's showing for you.
Yeah, I can see it.
So this is the front page that we released on the 1st of January. So there's a bit more going on here. You've got a bit of a menu up the top here. There's a help button, which is worth knowing about before you ask questions about how it works. So here you start in a very similar way. You flight create and you load the flight data. So I'll load the same flight in here. It's giving me a warning because I've already uploaded this one, but that doesn't matter too much. And then you also need to define the box. There's a few options here for how you can define the box. You can choose one of the flight coach sites, but this wasn't at one of those. So these are the ones that are stored in our database. You can choose your pilot and center, pilot and the heading, or you import a file. So you can, if you've loaded a flight in the flight coach plotter, you can save a JSON file here, and then it will pick up from that JSON file. Oh, that's the wrong JSON file. It will pick up from that JSON file the box information for the flight. The other thing it will do, it should do. If I choose the right files. Yeah, when you choose the bin file that matches the JSON file, it will also read all the maneuver splitting from that flight. So then it just means you don't need to do anything here. You can just click complete and move on to the next stage. Or if you want to, you can just split all the maneuvers in here. Which I can't at the moment because the sharing thing.
Then you might be able to drag that.
Oh yeah. So it's a similar kind of idea that you just split it into maneuvers here. Then you add a next maneuver. So again, you put the little plane at the end of the maneuver to show that. You can choose the schedule at this point. F3A, P25. First maneuver. So the other nice thing about this is you could also fly a practice flight with lots of random maneuvers and then judge each one. You won't be able to upload it to the database, but Anyway, I'll just load up you can also load a JSON file at this point. And then so you can do it either way. If you want to use a plotter, you can use a plotter. If you don't want to use a plotter, you don't have to. We'll hopefully build a closer integration between the plotter and flight coach score in the future. But that's there's only three of us working on this, so we can't do everything.
Yep.
So when you click complete, you are taken to this page. So here you've got the table in the middle. Shows you your scores basically. So the maneuver names down here, the K factors, and everything's 0 because we haven't run anything. So I'll click run, and it starts running the analysis. On the left here, you've got some tools to, which I'll talk about later. So in this table, the score column where everything's red at the moment because they're all 0 is your score out of 10 for each maneuver. Then you've got 3 columns to the left of it called intra, inter, and box. So they are the 3 So there are three kinds of downgrade. So box is an obvious one. It's just, are you inside the box positioning and centering for F3A, or are you flying too deep?
Mm-hmm.
Intra, so a flight is built up, or a maneuver is built up of elements. So say a square loop is built up of a quarter loop and then a line and then a quarter loop and so on. Mm-hmm. A 4-point roll, it's got 4 quarter rolls and 4 bits of line with no roll. So an intra downgrade is errors within each element. So if you're looking at a loop element, was it round? Were your wings level all the way around the loop and so on? If it's a roll element, did you finish at the right angle? Or if it's a line, did you maintain track? The inter downgrades are comparing one element to the next, or where elements have a relationship, it's downgrading for differences in that relationship. So if you've got 2 loops within a maneuver that should have the same radius, then it will downgrade if they don't. Or say the lines before and after rolls, it will downgrade if they're one's longer than the other.
So intra would show you the mistakes within one of those loops, or within each of those loops, while inter, even if the loops were on their own perfect, inter would give you, they were perfect, but they were different from each other. That kind of idea?
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
So for every maneuver now, everything's run. So we've got a total score for this flight, 472, which is, it was a pretty good flight, but mainly there was no wind. So we can now go and click on any of these to see a bit more information. So there's a nice plot, much like in a plotter. The alignment, so this page shows you the elements so you can see the ribbon here has been coloured based on which principal element is being flown. So the blue line here is showing the entry line, then element 0 is the first radius, then element 1 is that bit of line before the roll, and so on. That's the pause between a 2 or 4-point roll. So this page is useful if something's gone wrong, which is probably beyond the scope of this podcast, so we'll just go on to this scoring. So here you see the ribbon plot again, and you see there's a number on every element. Mm-hmm. So that's a downgrade that I got for that element.
Wow.
So you can see down here, this loop here, I got a 0.4 mark downgrade for this loop. If I click on that loop, I can see where those downgrades came from. So I got a little bit for roundness, a little bit for smoothness, and so on. Roll angle. So the main downgrade I got here was because my roll angle
wings were not totally level.
So if I select the roll angle downgrade, you can see the graph of roll angle against time, and you can see that I got a 0.17 mark downgrade because my roll angle was off at this point. You see?
Yeah.
By 8 degrees. The reason I got... So the other thing to note is, you see this blue line on this graph. So that you've got the black line, which is the exact measurement of roll angle against time.
Okay.
But the blue line here is an estimate of how visible that roll angle error was from the judge's point of view. So for a roll angle error, if the wings pass through the view vector, then it's very easy to see the roll angle because,
different positions are gonna.
It's very hard to see.
The same roll deviation will be more or less noticeable depending on the particular position of the plane against the
exactly. So even though the roll angle got more wrong as I went further through the maneuver, the biggest downgrade came here because I'm standing on the ground and I should have been able to see very clearly that the wings were level because the wings were passing through the view vector at that point.
So that's really interesting. One of my questions I was planning to ask a bit later is how does it's around this, like would you have to fly a bit different to get the perfect jet scores versus to get the perfect flight code score. And it sounds like, in theory, this is already taking into account that like perspective component a little bit.
So exactly, the idea of this visibility factoring is, or this is not factoring, but this visibility weighting is that we're basically mimicking, as a pilot, you're good at sensing certain things, and so we should, adjust the downgrades to suit. And so the idea is no, but obviously this calculation of visibility, everything's very complicated. There's going to be mistakes.
Yeah.
And there's going to be very, much better ways of doing things, and it will improve it with time. And as we get more feedback, we'll improve things. But no, the idea is that you should be able to fly the same flight. If you win the World Championships, then you should be getting very good scores in flight coach score. So that's the kind of idea of basically all the intra-element downgrades work in a similar way to this. A different one might be the radial track here, where, radial track is, did you do the right amount of loop? So you're actually only downgrading for the final point of this loop. So it's just a different way. So there's only one downgrade coming in here at the very end. The rest of it's ignored. So there's just some different examples of how things could be.
Yeah, so you really can dive as deep as you want on each element of each maneuver.
There's lots of information here. If we go on to inter, so again, we've got this ribbon plot, which I seem to use for everything. So if we select the loop radius criteria here, it shows you your 4 loops. You've got the table on the bottom left here. The first loop had a 75 meter radius, then 60, 60, and then 80. So you can see the errors, how visible was the error, and then a downgrade do you get for each one. So these are all, fairly consistent sizes, so there's not too much. So it's exactly the same the line before and after this roll, again, is the same idea. Another slightly more interesting one, if you look at the line lengths here, each of these lines is built up from lots of elements. So the collector, you can see it's a sum of all of these lengths to compare the 2 line lengths. So the schedule definition that this is working on, it knows the rules of F3A, and this is how we've implemented it.
This is really, really cool. It's really impressive.
The final one, positioning. So there's a little downgrade for top box. You can see that I was out the top box for a little bit of the line on the way in. You can see the region. And then back box, the whole manoeuvre was outside of the back of the box by a little bit. And so we got a bit of a downgrade, but it wasn't far out, just 5 meters beyond. So there's only a small downgrade.
No, this is really cool. I have taken a quick look at the scoring side of things. I didn't dive as deep as this, and I didn't realize that there was this much level of detail, both being taken into account and also for the user being able to actually inspect all of these things. Right? It's really nice. Like, that's the other really frustrating thing to me about competition. Like, even if the judges were actually perfect and they did a perfect job, which is never going to happen because we're humans. But if that was the case, you see your 6.5. And you don't even know why, right? Like, you don't even know, like, I thought that was a perfect loop. And now you go here, like, actually, like, you went a bit out of the box and the radio started, like, modifying a little bit at the end. Like, it's really amazing tool for feedback.
The other thing is, I mean, there will be places where this is wrong, and there will be...
Yeah.
But the thing is, the thing that you couldn't really do before is if you find a mistake or a score you don't agree with, you can talk to me and we'll fix it. Which... in a competition, if you disagree with a score that a judge gives you, the conversation doesn't really go very far usually. But for feedback, I mean, there's 2 reasons we've done all of these plots. One is to show that it's working, to give people confidence that it's giving scores that are sensible. And it's also because it's really useful for feedback, because I can go and look at this and see, well, I made loads of mistakes in that flight, but which one lost me the most points?
Mm-hmm.
And just in this table on the front page, the more red it is, the more points it lost you, the more K-factored points it lost you.
Mm-hmm.
So this error on a half cloverleaf was the most expensive thing for me in this flight.
I see it shows difficulty hard. What is that?
Right, so we've done all the testing on hard mode. So if we put it to moderate or easy, basically we're applying an expo curve to every downgrade. So if you get a 6 in F3A, if you get a 6 mark downgrade, you'll still get a 6 mark downgrade. But if you get a 2 mark downgrade, you might only get a 1 mark downgrade on moderate.
I see.
Where in iMac it would be a 10 mark downgrade, but still give you a 10 mark downgrade. So there's just
It's kind of like a multiplier for the downgrades.
Yeah, and you can use it. I always just use it on hard. I don't think. I think these are probably a bit redundant now because the visibility factoring is better and it's more consistent. It's probably something that's older versions of the code were a lot harsher.
Hopefully that helps. Thanks for watching.